Good morning. Thank you so much for being here, and thanks to Electrify Expo for having me. As you can see, we have a few more people than are on the screen, but we're going to focus today's conversation on the challenges that brands face when they're talking with consumers about using energy in a way that they're not quite familiar with, using electricity as a fuel. It's a very different kind of conversation with consumers than automakers are maybe used to having, and there's quite a gap sometimes between what consumers know and kind of where they're going to need to get to in order to buy an EV and use an EV on a regular basis. So maybe to start, if you want to each introduce yourselves and then talk about one of the biggest challenges that you currently see in communicating with consumers about how to use electricity as a fuel in kind of this new way. You want to go first, Adam?
Sure. So I'm Adam Weissman. I work with Anker. We are the #1 mobile charging brand, and we've recently gotten into this space of power. Back in 2015, we actually created the first portable power station. Over the last couple of years, we've really dove into this space even more, now launching products with the home, full home backup portable power. And you know, what I see with this is just talking to consumers, they're just confused about, you know, what do I need? What do I, you know, even just being at Electrify in past shows, you know, they would come up to the booth and say like, I love what you do, I love your mobile chargers, but can this power my house? Can I plug in my car? And they just don't seem to understand the differences between kilowatt hours and kilowatts and, you know, uses. So it's really an interesting thing to challenge to figure out how do we talk to consumers better to make them understand what they need. They're used to, when they're powering their home, just turn on a light switch and that's it. It works. It either works or it doesn't. When they go fill up their car in gas, it works or it doesn't. So
yeah, and that's definitely something that like educational marketing campaigns can definitely address. It's one of the best things that marketing can do is to teach consumers more about a new kind of product or about a big transition like we're facing, this energy transition. Yeah, Matt, what's kind of one of the biggest challenges that you're seeing in this space?
I'm Matt Teskey, founder and CEO of ChargeWay, and I think from a challenge perspective, it's a big part of why ChargeWay was founded, was because of what we're talking about, which is the communication of how people understand what we're asking them to do, which is use a new fuel type, but also just use electricity in a way that they, as you point out, they've never had to think about it before. Yeah. And so I think that is, at the end of the day, the biggest challenge we have, because now we're, again, in the EV space especially, we're bringing to market a lot of great models from a lot of great brands that people have a lot of connectivity to, they have a lot of passion and love for. And I think what we're now seeing is that those brands know how to market themselves as an automobile brand, as an example. But on the counter of that, there just is a complete gap of that messaging around, there is a new fuel type, and here's how you use it. And the incumbent product they've been using forever is called regular, and it takes 5 minutes. And we've done the studies. If you ask them what they use, they'll say things like regular or premium. They will not say, I use unleaded because it's 87 octane, because I understand octane and pentane and engine knock and how it resolves that. They don't care. So that's where I think we did, again, bring it to people in a way that they can understand how it fits into their life, and translating the complexities into something simple. That's what we've been focused on with ChargeWay for a long time, is how do we visualize and translate a kind of an intangible fuel into something they can understand.
Yeah, totally. BJ, obviously, you're the reason we're all here. So you saw this gap, right? I wonder if you can talk a little bit about the big challenges that you hope that we're kind of solving in part by being here today.
Well, I'm not an analyst, but what I can tell you is I was an EV skeptic. And I was a skeptic up until I had my experience with an EV. I mean, that changed everything. But what it didn't change was understanding the language of how to talk about EVs. And what we've seen over the past couple of years with Electrify Expo is we've gone through a few waves. We went through a wave of consumers who could talk shop much better than I could, and they had an eco-conscious mindset. They were there for sustainability reasons, and then we went through a wave of early tech adopters, and again they could talk shop. And now we're entering a wave of general mainstream Americans who want to go electric but don't understand anything about it. And to Lauren's point earlier when he opened up the show is that he noted a couple commercials that he wasn't all that happy about. There is a purchase funnel, and the purchase funnel starts at awareness, and at the bottom of it is a sale. And there's different ways to talk to consumers throughout that entire purchase funnel. I think that we just all need to agree to a language of what that's going to be.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I mean, I know we probably have some of the most educated consumers in the audience here, or maybe and who will be here this weekend. But I read this story yesterday from the Washington Post that outlined kind of the challenges that both dealerships and consumers are facing when it comes to buying and selling EVs. Dealers are frustrated with how long it takes to sell an EV because consumers have to come in multiple times, ask a bunch of questions, and that length of time cuts down on the dealer's profits. And it just takes a minute for consumers to understand how that's going to play out in their day-to-day. So my next question is kind of related to that first one here, but I'm curious if, obviously there's a bunch of, Anker doesn't, sell EVs, but you've got these chargers that can be used for EVs. So it's a piece of this broader puzzle, right? I'm curious if there's one thing that you wish consumers, if you could like snap your fingers and consumers would understand one piece of this puzzle, like perfectly, what would that be? What's like the first priority maybe for marketers in the coming years to show consumers through educational marketing?
I mean, I think it really goes back to what I said earlier, is just getting them to understand the power that they're talking about, of how to use that power. What can they charge? How long does it take to charge? Because again, they're used to doing it one way, and then moving to this other newer version of charging or installing power. It's not just a quick fill up your tank. It's what can I charge and how does it work? If I add more products or in my home or my more cars, how long can I charge? So I think just getting them to understand what they're trying to power their car with and how it works, with their home. Like again, we're getting into the whole home space, and these products are really designed for backup, but they can be used to charge their car, but they will need more.
Right. Matt, ChargeWay is basically trying to solve a piece of this problem. So maybe you can speak to that. And you probably have a very clear answer on exactly what you want consumers to understand.
Well, I think the one thing you mentioned just now, just how they understand the opportunity of the power. And I think that if you think about car enthusiasts for the last century, basically, is there are most of the time people don't think about the cars when the car is sitting still. The car is what moves them. But unless you go to a car show like Electrify Show Off, I mean, there's people that want to sit and look at the car when it's sitting still because it's amazing when you look at it. But that's the opportunity, is understanding that not just when the vehicle's in motion, is what is the opportunity for how and when you can fill up. When it is sitting still, what does that look like? And for the most part, today, people know they pull up, they fill up in 5 to 10 minutes with gasoline, and that's their understanding of the fill up. But they don't, because they're not thinking about when their car is sitting still so often, like in their garage for 8 to 10 to 12 hours a night. That's the idea of how do we market to them of that opportunity of you don't need, that's the challenge. So they have not been thinking about that before. We're basically asking them to think about filling up in a new way. And so how do we categorize that? Because I think what oftentimes happens is people will hear, well, it takes 8 hours to fill up at home. And they think, I can't take a road trip and have it take 8 hours. Well, they need to understand those different opportunities for how they can fill up faster and what those vehicles can accommodate. So to your point, this is something we identified, 7, 8 years ago now with ChargeWay, which was, this is a complex conversation. Can we explain it through kilowatts and kilowatt hours? Will people understand charging curves and amps and volts and ohms? Not when the product is called regular and it takes 5 minutes and then you use it forever. That's where we have to get more creative around how we do messaging.
Yeah. DJ, what are your thoughts here on?
Well, I think, if we're talking about defining a language of how to communicate to consumers, I think, ChargeWay is leading the way in helping people understand in the most simplified fashion how that language should look.
Yeah.
People understand numbers, people understand colors, and I know Matt will get into that a little bit later about how he's communicating it with ChargeWay. But the issue is that there's a lot of people in the marketplace trying to communicate this language in totally different ways. So you have all these languages out there, and it's confusing people. So, when people come to Electrify Expo, one of their first questions is, how long does it take to charge? How far does it go? So they have to understand in an easy language how that works. And on the micromobility side too, they're asking questions about how long does it take to charge and how far will it go. So it's the same language. We need to identify it, and people like Matt and others should lead the way and define that language. And we should adopt some sort of industry standard on this fast.
Yeah. As we were preparing for this talk yesterday, we got into a conversation about range anxiety. And the conversation was kind of that, like, maybe that's a poorly named problem that we're facing with a lot of different solutions, and like it speaks to a lot of different kinds of anxieties for both EVs and micromobility. I wonder if there's if maybe we can talk a little bit about that, about what the underlying reality is that range anxiety is trying to get to. And you see this in headlines all the time, and it seems to be, talking about a whole mountain of issues. How is Anker and Solix addressing that through certain products? To start,
Sure. So we recently introduced a new product. It's currently on Kickstarter, but it will come out next year, and it can be used. And it's one of the questions that we've gotten is, can you plug in your car to it? It is this tall, but if you wanted to, you could take it with you and put it into your car. Now, the thing that consumers don't seem to understand is, to your point is, I have so much power, how far can I go? So they say, I have an EV that has 100 kilowatt hour battery. This product that we're making is about a 4 kilowatt hour battery, so it's not going to fill up your car. But you could take it with you and bring, and I guess solve that poorly worded term of range anxiety. It's more of empty battery anxiety.
Right.
But you could take it with you and really extend that life, or use it when the power is out, when you can't get power, when you actually could take yourself to somewhere else to fill up to charge your car.
Right. Or if you get to a charger and it's not working.
You can go to the next charger.
Yeah, exactly. Well, Matt, how, I feel like Chargeway is focusing specifically on this problem. How kind of are you talking to your potential users or your current users about that, and how are you kind of trying to get deeper than that term itself?
Well, at the end of the day, what we're talking about is energy messaging and branding, right? And the opportunity of what electrification provides is getting people to think about something they really have never thought about. But once you do understand it, it creates opportunity around what you can then do with engaging with something that's electrified. It could be an opportunity for a product that could save you on a trip. It could be something you take for camping. It's not a gas generator. It's something that's electric. And so I think that what we identified again years ago was people love buying cars. I mean, in America, we've got almost 300 million of them on the road. I mean, we do it really well. We buy 15 million new cars a year. But the fact that every consumer that's doing that when it's gas related, and to your point about the dealers, and they say, look, it takes us 4 hours to close a sale on these things. They are having to figure out how to explain not the car, but fuel and energy. And they've had a partner in fossil fuels for decades that made it so it was very simple. But at the end of the day, gasoline is, again, it's a tactile product. And that's the thing is, electricity for most people, it's just kind of this magical thing that works all the time. That's kind of blinding me right now. But that's the depth of knowledge. So are we going to train people and educate people? I don't think that that's really the tactic and strategy that will work in the long term. And our approach, frankly, is it's got to be personalized. Gasoline has kind of been the great unifier for everyone for the last century, in the sense that you could be rich and drive an expensive car, or poor and drive a not expensive car, but you'll both blow up with the same gas pump. But now there is kind of a class system as it relates to electrification and electric fuel. You have a house you can plug in, that's a special thing. So how do we invite people into those ownership experiences based on the car they select and understanding their lifestyle, and then translate that experience into something that's visualized in a way that they can navigate those options without feeling overwhelmed. And that's effectively the strategy we have with our software at Target.
Cool. BJ, how have you seen the conversation around range anxiety change over the last few years of the Electrify Expo, and where do you expect it to go next?
The space has become much more competitive, specific to autos. And I think people come into Expo and they're ready to go electric. These are typically people who have already made their mind that they're going to come check out this electric thing, so they don't need to be hard sold on going electric. What they need to figure out is, does a plug-in make sense for me right now, or does going fully electric make sense for me? And what are the benefits of both? And how am I not going to get hung up if I buy a fully electric vehicle somewhere when I'm on a road trip? We had a podcast a month ago or so with Vaughn Gittin Jr., who is a professional race car driver. And he said, what I agree with, is that if you're a two-car family, there is no reason why at least one of those vehicles shouldn't be fully electric. And I absolutely agree with that. So I think people are coming to Expo to sniff it out, but they are asking these range questions, and they are getting different answers when they bounce around from stop to stop. So that's where we need to identify what the language is going to be, and put them on a path that they understand, and not talking ohms and ampage and kilowatts per hour. We gotta get away from that completely.
Yeah. In his keynote earlier, Liam was arguing that the e-mobility industry needs less of this big flashy brand marketing that has celebrity-filled spots. That's really, there's a space for that, right? There's making EVs sexy is a great thing for the energy transition. But I think I see a lot of opportunity in this experiential space and in the educational marketing space for brands that we haven't really seen a whole lot of marketing that really fits that description. I wonder maybe if you could kind of talk about, especially for Anker, quickly as we're running out of time here, the opportunity that these kind of in-person or experiential trade shows and pop-ups play, where that fits in your marketing plan, especially considering where Anker is at this festival even, it's everywhere, right? And the opportunity for consumers to experience that in person, where does that fall in your marketing strategy?
Yeah, so it's been actually a great opportunity to partner with Electrify. As you walk around the space, you'll see all the speakers and the pop-ups and blow-ups all powered by our power banks. But just being able to get in front of consumers and help them understand these more complex things about how to use and how to charge and what it can power has been great. It's people come to us and say, what can I power? Can I power my house? Can I power this? What's coming next? Are you into whole home vehicle chargers? And we are getting into that space. Unfortunately, haven't had them sampled here, but we are getting into that space. But it's really been great to be able to get in front of consumers and just help them understand what they can use our products to charge that are the bigger products that we have. So it's been, the other thing that we're doing is really with all of the information on our website, we always try to highlight the different use cases of each of these products. What can it charge? What can it power? Just so that people can understand. So they don't know a fridge is this much and a TV is that much. So
yeah. In our last minute here, I wonder if Matt and BJ could give a prediction for 2024. What do you think will define EV and electricity as a fuel, this idea, marketing in this space in 2024?
No, I honestly think this discussion is something that we've been trying to have for about 6 or 7 years now. And I love the fact that it's boiling to the surface finally. Is here at Expo, I think what's great is for micromobility and for vehicles, you get to experience the vehicle that will inevitably move you, but we need to really be having a conversation about the fuel that makes that possible. And I think that my prediction is this is going to become a much more important conversation because the ownership experience of that, whether it's a vehicle or micro, it requires a knowledge of how that fits into your lifestyle. So my prediction is this is going to be a conversation we'll hear a lot more about.
You did everything really quickly because we're out of time.
Good.
All right. Well, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Thank you, all of our panelists here.